What's up, you guys? This is HJ here, and welcome to Gamers Tech Corner. Doing something a little bit different today. So today I'm joined by my friend Cass, and we're just going to talk about life in general, trying to shake things up a bit and get out of the norm of just talking about just tech in general. Although we might do a little bit of some of that here today as well, as it pertains to our daily lives. So if you feel free to say hi, Cass, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Hey, what's up?
So I'm
Hey, so
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry. Actually, so are you gonna pre-order the Switch 2 still? Because I thought about that, and I'm kind of hesitant on that.
I have no idea if they're gonna raise the price. Honestly, it's a little expensive. Like my limit was around $500, and recently to my knowledge, I think that they recently postponed the pre-orders due to tariffs. And I don't want to get political there, but I don't know if the price will go up. So if it's over 500, I can't do it. But if it's under that, I'm gonna try. So that's a significant investment.
Look,
'Cause I want,
sorry.
yeah, because I want Splatoon 4 whenever it becomes a thing, and just the new Pokemon games. I'm not gonna buy much because the games are expensive. Have you seen how expensive they are?
They're like $80, and I'm like, and by the time you spend $80 on a game, that's like a quarter of the console right there. Most consoles.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a quarter of an entire console. Inflation really is pain.
So the problem that I see is gonna be GTA 6 because what they're expecting to happen is they're expecting GTA 6 to be like a baseline for all the other game prices, and I'm hoping it's below $100 because if it's above $100, that's gonna give companies like way too much of an excuse to charge more than $100 for a video game. But it's like our pockets, we already can't afford this stuff. Come on, guys. We can't
Yeah.
afford this.
Yeah, I have to use Steam for everything because, like, they put everything on sale. So I can actually afford Steam games, but I can't afford the exclusives because they're just so expensive. I still haven't gotten Tears of the Kingdom because it's expensive. And I
Well,
want that game.
well, it's like I have to keep telling myself over and over again. It's like if it's just GTA 6, already have a backlog of games that's like the list goes on, and if there's a worst case scenario, I'll just have to resort to waiting for things to come out on Game Pass. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, the Nintendo Switch price of $449 is trying to kill and double kill my wallet, so I think I'm gonna skip out on that for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm waiting to see like what they do price wise because like that was the price originally, and now I don't know if it's gonna stay the same. And if it's over 500, I can't get it. Because that's like I can't spend something like because I don't know if it's gonna go up to 499.99 or something because like the Steam Deck is literally $400 and I own that. Like it's sitting right here. I got Windows 10 on it now.
Here's here's my argument, and some of my audience might agree with this, and comment on Spotify if you agree with this. But here's my argument. By the time you take 450, almost $500 to spend on a Nintendo Switch 2, and yes, don't get me wrong, it's a really great console. But by the time you do that for a console that has a lockdown operating system that you can't really do anything with the hardware, that's Windows gaming handheld territory. And so when you compare being able to do whatever you want, have no hardware limitations except for the physical shell of the device, you can upgrade the storage, you can do all the mods in the world that you want to it and not get penalized for it, and you get access to Windows and or Steam OS, and you can mod it however the freak you want. By the time you factor all that in and you're in Windows handheld territory, I would make the argument that you should probably, if you really want to do that kind of stuff and you're not into Nintendo first party exclusives, should probably look into Windows handhelds as well, and that makes this really competitive because what it does is it puts pressure on both sides, Windows and Nintendo's OS, to try and compete with one another for that space. And it's for most people, this is my opinion. For most people, if you don't care about Pokemon or Mario or any of that stuff, or you don't care about emulation, then you like to play Cyberpunk, all those other games, realistically, and you want the 60 FPS, or you just want to just have Windows operating system benefits like being able to use outside web browsers, all that other good stuff, then I mean, at that point, why not get a Windows PC handheld and just skip the limitations of a Nintendo Switch? And to me, it's like better to have hardware that you can control than having hardware that a company both physically and legally controls, which is something that I always look at when it comes to the handheld market, is how they both stack up with one another. But your thoughts on this?
Honestly, that is a very good argument. Like, because I'll say this: if you're trying to get if you're, it depends on what you're into. Like, for instance, as evidenced by my profile picture of a Splatoon squid, I'm massive into Splatoon. So obviously, I would like to at least try to get I would at least try to get the new Switch 2, but if I can't, I'm just going to buy the game and emulate it, because if I can't afford the console, I'm going to at least buy the games for like whenever a Switch 2 emulator comes out. And speaking of Switch emulators, recently a new one did come out, and apparently to fight piracy, they have a new type of file you have to provide to prove that you own the actual game that you bought. So that's pretty interesting, honestly.
I also
Me
I
see.
also look at things from a legal perspective because Nintendo has done some pretty bad things to people who try and like mod their Switches or emulate things from Switch, and it's kind of a little bit of like a gray area because it's like, well, at the
Emulation is technically legal. It is legal in North America, and although with a bit more restrictions, I think it's still legal in Europe. I'm not sure if it's legal in Japan, but emulation in itself is legal. But the problem is how you source the games can sometimes be illegal, because if you're pirating the games, then that technically is not legal. But if you own the game, then if you dump the game, then you've legally managed to get the game into a state where you can actually do that. But as I said, it doesn't like when you do that, but realistically, they cannot stop the mere act of emulation because it is not illegal. But at the same time, so in this sense, the emulator in itself is legal, but the games are the problem. You have to get the games legally.
And that's the other thing though. It's like because the Nintendo Switch also they don't like when you mod the console itself also. I actually have to go back to an article I read and a YouTube video I watched a while ago where it's like the people who made the homebrew patches and got this stuff started in the first place. Nintendo made sure that they were sued and I think locked up for it. And I would not have gone that far. I mean, at the very least, they could have sued them, but going so far as to like to do that just to make sure that they're never able to get their hands on a PC ever again is kind of a little bit extreme in my opinion. Because yes, I understand like they like to own their entire franchise with will, but like it's kind of frustrating because it's like with Windows and like Xbox and PlayStation, even if you can't like do things directly on every system, you at least have some freedom. It's like with a Nintendo Switch console, you don't have any freedom at all. You don't have a say. You don't have a say,
Essentially,
basically.
essentially, I put it like a tier system. Computers like Windows and Linux, you have by far the most freedom. Xbox is the most freedom console wise. PlayStation is in the middle where they restrict some things, but they don't completely restrict everything. And Nintendo completely locks every single solitary thing down. A good example is Fallout 4 and Skyrim on the PS4 and PS5, where you can get mods, but the actual mods you can get vastly differ from the Xbox because PlayStation prohibits any sort of new content that does not come from the developers directly. They do not allow fan-made modded content on their consoles in the sense of they don't like they do not they modding their consoles is more frowned upon than it is with Xbox. Xbox and Microsoft do not mind. So it's why, like, when you load up Fallout 4, you can only get I edits and stuff on the PS4, but on Xbox, you can get things like Sim Settlements 2, Miami Misadventures, etc. And on PC, you can get anything and everything.
Well,
what I'm saying.
yeah, I get what you're saying. I'm always a proponent of just if you want to have complete and total control over every single thing in the entire world, just get a PC. Just cut out the middleman. Just get a PC. And the cool thing about PCs is you get infinite upgradability for at least for desktops. And I did an episode about like switching to PC in 2025, which for my audience, you guys can go check that episode out. It's available for free wherever you get your podcasts. And basically in it, I talk about like how switching to PC or gaming laptops has its benefits, like being able to have mods, capabilities. Like if you have a desktop and new hardware comes out, you can just pop this bad boy open and take out a motherboard, switch out a few components here and there, and then put new ones in, and then bam, you're good to go. Even with some pre-builts, you get more freedom. And it's like, I just don't have anything bad to say about PCs. Yes, they can fail sometimes, but just replace the component. There's nothing wrong with that. And PCs are even more economical because by the time you spend like several $100s every life cycle of a console, you can just buy a PC one time, a really, really good one, and it's gonna last you at least for the next 3 or 4 years if you take really good care of it and depending on the type of games you play. And that's a big benefit of it. That's why I love PC so much.
Yeah, like for me, I've had my same GPU since 2020, and it's still able to play all the games. It's a GTX 1650, and my computer I'll list off my specs: 16 gigs of RAM, just a typical i5, and a GTX 1650, and it can do everything you would usually expect. Like I can play pretty much any game I want. Even VR is able to be handled on this. And that's just my like strongest PC. I have an Alienware Steam Deck too, but like even my Alienware, which has a GTX 980 still can play games 10 years later. I just have to I was able to play Grand Theft Auto 5 maximum settings in 4K. The enhanced edition. So that is very, very impressive for a 10-year-old laptop computer.
And here's the other thing that I have to say. If you are streaming, creating content, podcasting, or doing YouTube, yes, I mean, of course you can stream on console or stream on your phone or whatnot. But if you're going to be doing that, obviously you're going to need a PC. And I can understand MacBooks because I never ever have a bad thing to say about MacBooks. If you want to go with a MacBook, sure. That's a personal preference, and I only recommend MacBooks for those that are comfortable with being locked down to their ecosystem. But just for anybody in general who just wants to get into the world of streaming or content creation and get started, I'm probably good enough to start with a Windows PC or a Windows laptop. Like over on my round table desk, which I have behind me, way back there on the other side of my room, you guys can't see it on the camera. Um, but it's there. I have my Acer Nitro V15, and that thing packs an i7 13628 and a 4060 in it. That bad boy, if I wanted to stream and do my recording at the same time and play my game at the same time, even with 16 gigs of DDR5 RAM, I can do that. And I'm on my desktop recording this podcast right now. This desktop, while it might have a Ryzen 7 5800 XT, and it's got a 6600 8 gig card in it from AMD. This thing is a really, really good solid PC for what I plan to do. Now, granted, I have some issues when streaming more demanding games like 5M because of the bitrate challenges that you'll experience with certain hardware and encoder presets, but that's a software issue, not a hardware limitation. I mean, if you're gonna get into content creation, get a PC. I highly recommend getting a PC. And like I said, you can stream on console, but what I advise, if you're gonna stream on console, use your PC or your laptop or your MacBook to record the footage externally from a capture card and use the stream chat on it. I would not advise streaming directly from the console using the built-in software on your console, because one of the problems with that I've experienced in the past is that also, yeah, you can't see what you're doing and you have limited control over it. But also, if there are any issues that arise when you're streaming, it's very, very difficult to actually fix it. And if you need to get that footage off your console, you have to manually go into your Twitch or YouTube to pull that footage and download it. Whereas if you do it on PC externally, you can just have it record while you're streaming, and then as soon as the streaming stops, the recording stops, and so it pulls the footage for you. I think PC is so much better for that. So yeah. We're winding down now. Is there anything else you have to say about any of these topics in general before we sign off?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. So I just have one very last question for you. This is very generic, but what hands down, what do you prefer? What do you prefer? Just Xbox, PlayStation, Windows, Mac, Switch, just what do you prefer?
I prefer computer first and foremost, with Xbox at a close second.
Explain.
The reason I prefer PC is the very large degree of freedom and the fact that you don't have to constantly keep buying new consoles. It's modular. If you need a new GPU, you can buy a new GPU, just take the old one out, put the new one in. You need more RAM, take the old RAM out, put the new RAM in, and you can get any games you want. There's so many different games you can get early access and whatnot. Even if you have to wait for some exclusive timed console exclusives before they release on PC, it is totally worth the wait because you get the freedom to customize graphics, you can get mods. It's just, you have all the freedom in the world. The only downside is that sometimes that freedom can be a bit overwhelming and you don't know what to do. But at the end of the day, it's just totally worth it to get a computer.
Yes, I'm so glad somebody finally agrees with me on the PC argument. And that's why I wanted you to explain, because as my friend personally, you're always so good at explaining this stuff. So thank you so much. And thank you for being on the show today. You've been an amazing help, and I hope to have you up here again sometime.
Thanks. Thank you very much. And you guys all have a good one. Thank you for having me on here.
You're welcome. All right, then you guys can check out this episode. By the time you guys are listening to this or watching it on Spotify, probably gonna be Wednesday. I'm sorry for the delay in recording it. I meant to record this on earlier, and for those who don't know, my original guest, they haven't responded to me at all about coming on the show. And if they do respond, we're probably gonna have to reschedule it because they did not confirm like they were supposed to. So thank you, Cass, for coming on today, because otherwise I would not have had an episode for this week. the funny how that works. But thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys so much for allowing us into your homes today. And we'll catch you next time here on Gamers Tech Quarter.